in the raw. Arcades, Guyana Free Media. I'm your friend, your brother, Haji Dr. Roshan Khan, and this is not on local politics, but this is in the raw, and a wisdom from the famous writer, novelist, philosopher, Ernest Hemingway. And this is sent out by Philo Thoughts. Philo Thoughts means philosophy thoughts. And I made a note on what he wrote here. But I give you my note first on wars. Taken from his book, The Art of War, or On War, by Hemingway on War. Those of you who like to read and to get knowledge and to teach, then this is a good book I see to have when I will make arrangements. My note on this is Hemingway on War, on his book of war. Men, old, strong men, send young boys to war, to mass murder, steal properties, lands, and the war creators, they get rich with their friends, their colleagues, and the war machine industries get richer and is more glorified. For example, why was Iraq attacked and destroyed? To my opinion, and opinion of many intellectuals and scholars world over, and including the United States, it was a plan to keep for Israel and Israel's manipulation that they need to get rid of Saddam Hussein. But Saddam Hussein was known as the secularist. He was more pro-American system, European and free system than any other Arab nation. And his people, females, could have worn jeans and whatever they want. And the women in Iraq were the most educated. But for some reason they decided to use the World Trade Center action, in which nobody was from Iraq, they were from Saudi Arabia, and nobody there was from Afghanistan, but then Iraq was destroyed. War. What is the reason and the purpose of war, my friends? And then I put Israel, always manipulating Europe and North America to destroy the powerful nations in the Middle East. They're working hard to wipe out Iran. They're working hard to break, well, they did, of Libya, which is in Africa really, but associated with the Middle East and the Muslim people. And Libya is destroyed today, a great magnificent country where people have so much of benefits and are clamoring for it, is now ruled in sections by warlords. War. The warlords in Libya wanted to eliminate Gaddafi, and they worked with foreign nations in power and Europe who wanted the gold and the oil of Libya. They wanted the wealth, the oil, the history, and it is known that in the Euphrates and other areas there's so much of wealth, and that the Euphrates River will dry up one day and it will bring forth great wealth. Same thing in Syria. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah, spoke, or God Almighty, about a mountain of gold in Syria. It's found. But those who know, and that's why that big battle, a kind of a world war taking place in Syria. And then some countries are working with warlords, some countries working with the president or so-called president, which is like a king of Syria, each for their own purpose and good for the world powers. They really don't give a damn about Syria. And this is the trouble that's going on, whereby these few words I'll give you from Hemingway give the idea of war. Well, just a short paragraph, ladies and gentlemen. Why war? For example, it was known that the then president, I can't get his name right now, who established the war in Vietnam and caused hundreds of thousands of death and destruction, and was all a part of experimenting with their weapons of mass destruction, as Israel is doing on Gaza and Palestine, and then selling their products. I imagine if in the days of the Vietnam War, if they had drones, what would have happened? They were sending down yellow rain, poisoned rains or waters, to poison the fields and to kill the people. Netanyahu of Israel is doing the same thing, sending down poison when the bombs explode to scar, destroy children, and destroy the land and destroy the people. And in the case of Netanyahu, and then we keep on stealing the lands, destroying the people olive trees that was functioning for, in some cases, for thousands of years, stealing the animals, allowing psychos from Saudi Arabia, I beg your pardon, allowing psychos from South Africa who love apartheid, who love to maul, murder black people. Now they change religion or faith and they turn Zionists, allow the mercenaries in the United States. I mean, every country has mercenaries. Canada has mercenaries. England has old soldiers who are mercenaries. So some of them accept the kind of a religion. They can't turn Jews, so they created Zionists, and they go into Palestine, and they are murdering, massacring, stealing, and kidnapping people, taking them to prison, stealing their body parts because it's big money, stealing their skins, and so on. This is war, ladies and gentlemen. Few, big, huge, powerful people in the world. There was no reason to destroy Iraq. Even eventually in shame, George Bush admitted they got wrong intelligence, but he knew all the time. We know why is it when the World Trade Center was bombed, he was in a school reading to first graders or third graders in a school, and if you look at his body language, you would see that from his body language and his face when they were giving him information that he was expecting something. And that with all of their intelligence, they could not have picked it up. Just as how with all of their intelligence of Mossad and Shin Bet of Israel, they didn't know, they say, that they were going to get an attack on that place. Art of war. Why did they, in the last 2 or 3 days, change the venue from a far-off venue to closer to Gaza? Why? Art of war, to create mayhem, murder, mass murder, practice their weapons, practice their drone, kill, destroy, make the place difficulty, get the people to leave so they could steal the land. And this is not only happening now, this was happening since historic times, in prehistoric times. And anybody who is soft and kind and good and produce food and try to develop as a people, and they don't have much weapons, the bigger nations will come and attack them. Example, Rome. Example, Greece, until Rome attacked Greece. Then Greece attacked Rome. Then the Greeks tried to go into India, creating all kind of a mayhem and murder. And then the Greeks went into Persia. Any place where you got some wealth and some success and some prosperity and some calm, the warriors, the lords of war, like to penetrate, create mayhem, steal the land, steal the people, enslave them, as was done by Africa. By who? By the Europeans. Everything that happened in America, pre-America then, with the Apache Indians and their nations, over 500 Apache nations living their way of life and so on. The Europeans did it all and mass murdered millions of indigenous or native people, the original people, for example, the Apache nations. And right away they want to change their language, as was done in what is now Mexico, in the Aztec and the Mayans. As soon as they go to attack these people, they got to stop speaking their language. They got to get all their gold, all their wealth. They make them semi-slaves. They give a few of them to become spies, certain facilities. And this is how, and it is always the Europeans. Rome came up and Rome started to conquer each nations around. Hitler came up and he started to conquer each nation around not too far away in Europe. This is reality of war. So I thought this morning, friends and families, when I saw this little piece, that I give this in the raw, an opinion. And war is good for some of these people who make the weapons of war and who give both sides, like in Africa. They create warfare in certain countries in which they give weapons to both sides to kill each other. So divide and rule. And they can control the great resources of Africa since they started to penetrate Africa and to take it. The same technique was used to penetrate because the Muslims were ruling the India mostly, and they had alliances with Hindus and so on, and they had great success, I would say. But of course, nobody likes to be invaded, and they are saying these were invaders. But after 900 years, they start to get tired, and they feel that they want freedom and liberation. Even though that is what they had. For example, now there are certain people who want to get rid of Modi. And he actually lost the election. And he had to have a coalition. So whenever you have success going on, even within nations, there are always a set of people who want to penetrate. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I think I made my point there. And this is Ernest Hemingway. Let me give you a photograph of him. Hope you can see him well. Pretty good there, without the lights. I'm going to pass it across. Ernest Hemingway. And these few words I want to give you this, and I quote: war is no longer made by simply analyzed economic forces, if it ever was. War is made of planned now by individual men, demagogues, and dictators who play on the patriotism of their people to mislead them into a belief in the great fallacy of war, when all their vaunted reforms have failed to satisfy the people. They misrule. Ernest Hemingway. Let me read that back again one time. Basically what he's saying, that when leaders misrule, they try to, and the people are getting hot and bitter, they try to create a state of war, like what is happening in Israel, like what is happening in Venezuela, trying to create a state of war, Venezuela, with Guyana, because he is about to lose the elections. He's trying to fire up his people and telling the people you got 25 American bases in Guyana. If we did, I'm glad, because America is our friend. And I'm a lover of America, and I live in America. And so I will stand with and for America in cases of right development and growth, but not usually in wars. War is no longer made by simple, analyzed economic forces, if it ever was. War is made or planned now by individual men, demagogues, it means hypocrites, and dictators who play on the patriotism of their people to mislead them into a belief in the great fallacy of the war, when all their vaunted reforms have failed to satisfy the people. They misrule. So when they misrule their people, and they're trying to, I did this, and I did that, and we are seeing, right now, in the United States, Trump is saying, I do this, I did that and that, and Biden is saying, I did this and I did that and that and that. And when that failed, sooner or later, someone tried to create a war and manipulating the people with their patriotism and rile them up to go to war. We recall George Bush saying, well, I am a war president. But who created the war? Friends and family, ladies and gentlemen, your friend, your brother, me. Haji, Dr. Ocean Can, in the raw. A wisdom from the great writer, philosopher, Ernest Hemingway, saying thank you. Farewell.